Those of you who have watched my Reunited Kingdom campaign know that the Oathbreakers, or the Army of the Dead, are an absolute force of nature, tearing apart thousands of orcs without taking any casualties whatsoever. In the books and movies, we see the same thing. The Army of the Dead absolutely wipes the floor with any army that would dare to oppose them without second thought. This, of course, raises the question: is it possible to beat the Army of the Dead at all? And to answer that question, I've done some testing. I've pitted the Oathbreakers against many different units to see if it is at all possible to beat them, or even damage them somewhat. For this testing, I used Divide and Conquer version 5 without AGO. The only difference is that the Oathbreakers in DAC have 10 hit points, but 15 in AGO. Not that that makes a big difference, really. So, let's take a look at the results. At first, I pitted the Oathbreakers against the finest, quote-unquote, regular troops, and the results were pretty much as expected. Neither dwarf, elf, nor man really stood any chance whatsoever. Infantry, missile, cavalry, it didn't make any difference. Swan Knight charges were repelled with ease. The arrows from both Hinadaur and Gervaleg were little more than nerf darts. Smiths of Eregion were sent back to school, and even the tankiest dwarves were knocked down like little children. It became pretty clear that we had to look towards more unconventional warfare. First up were the Ents, the Wardens of Fangor, ancient and powerful beings, and although their first charge gave me a bit of hope, in the end the Oathbreakers chopped them down as if they were Isengard themselves. Not to worry, I still had more tricks up my sleeve. If the Ents were unsuccessful, perhaps some Balrogs with accompanying trolls would fare better. And they did, actually. Surprisingly enough, 20 Balrogs and 100 trolls managed to get 3 kills on the Oathbreakers. And whilst that's not even close to achieving victory, it does signify that the Oathbreakers are not immortal. Next up was the Dark Lord Sauron himself, or actually about 1,000 projections of himself. And just like the Balrogs before him, the 1,000 Saurons managed to take down 3 Oathbreakers before they perished. Naturally, if Sauron was beaten, we had to look towards the absolute strongest infantry and missile units in the game. So next up I pitched the Army of the Dead against the Phalanx line of farm and pikemen with hobbit stone throwers at their side. The results were both disappointing and hilarious. Okay, what about 100 Muma Kill? We saw the Army of the Dead take down the Muma Kill in the movie without any trouble whatsoever, but perhaps it would be different in game. And the result is actually quite surprising. The Muma Kill were not only able to dish out large amounts of damage to the Oathbreakers, killing more than 50, but their bodies also became a blockade that prevented the Oathbreakers from chasing the surviving Muma Kill. So technically this could be seen as a win. If you're attacked by Oathbreakers and you happen to be playing as Harad, just bury them under a bunch of Muma Kill and be done with it. Of course, that's not a very satisfying result, and one can only conclude that no living being has any chance of taking down the Army of the Dead. So let's look towards some engines of war. Starting out with the Ballistae. Putting the Army of the Dead against a bunch of Ballistae proved that the Ballista is not a one-hit kill in all situations. The Oathbreakers simply shrugged off the bolts that were hurled towards them without taking any casualties. Naturally, next up would be the Catapult. The Dwarven Catapult with Grape Shot, to be precise. Grape Shot is just as powerful as a regular cannon shot, but simply more spread out. And here it became clear that Catapult shots are a one-hit kill no matter the amount of hit points the enemy has. The Catapults absolutely tore through the Oathbreakers, and dwarves, whilst the pikemen tried to buy them time. And here we actually achieved victory, as the Oathbreakers were all banished through the power of dwarven engineering. And so we can conclude that the Army of the Dead can be beaten, not by man, dwarf, elf, Maya, or any other living creature, but through science and physics. But wait, let's not stop there. There is one last unit I want to pitch against the Oathbreakers. May I present to you the Trial by Fire, as 80 goblin mangonels will try to burn down the Oathbreakers before they can cross the river. Although some were able to cross the river, the goblins care little for friendly fire, and absolutely burn down the entire forest just to take down that last Oathbreaker. Anyway, that's it for this short little testing video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll catch you soon.